Alright, so 2-minute Tanya tidbit for today. So in yesterday's Tanya, we explained the idea that a mitzvah is totally nullified to God. As a mitzvah is just like a limb of a person, which is totally nullified to his desire, so too God's mitzvahs, which are expressions of God's will, are totally one with him. So when a person does a mitzvah, he's totally uniting himself with God's desire. Today's Tanya, we're going to explain that it's not only by a high level of a person's soul, that when a person does something, he's uniting himself with God, but even in the simple action. When a person uses his external garment, as we said, there's thought, speech, and action. But even the most external action, which is the idea of an action that a person does, is united with God himself when he does a mitzvah. As a person's uniting himself with God's desire, and that makes a very, very big oneness. Which means, in simple words, that when a person does a mitzvah with his hands, he gives charity to a poor person, or any other mitzvah. So to his legs, when the legs are walking in order to do a mitzvah, or the mouth which is speaking the words of Torah, or his mind which is thinking ideas of Torah, or fear of God. At those moments when a person is doing these mitzvahs with his garments, with his capabilities of his body, at that time his limbs are totally nullified to God's desire, as what they're doing is totally God's desire. So he's like a chariot which is totally nullified to the rider, so too the limbs of the body are totally nullified to the mitzvah of that time, as the nefesh halakis is fully expressing itself and doing God's desire. And this is what we find that our forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, are referred to as a chariot, because just like a chariot is totally nullified to the rider, so too our forefathers only served God all times, and therefore the only thing that was enclosed in their body, the only expression that their body ever expressed, was the idea of godliness, doing God's desire and following the mitzvahs down here. And therefore they're called a chariot, as they're totally nullified to God's desire, which is his expression that he has of doing the mitzvahs. That's the end of today's Tanya. See you next time.